You can go back to your life just as it was.
The story begins with a suspicious-looking man in a fast food restaurant staring at an adjacent flower shop. He notices a woman in her mid-30s walk out of the shop and walk into the restaurant.
Hey guys, how's the work going? Good, how are you?
I'm good, man.
With his eyes still fixed on her, he watches her place an order and settle down to eat. After a while, he leaves the restaurant and heads to a parking lot where he sits in his car.
Yeah, I mean, we gotta run a few more tests.
Well, if you need any help with the kids.
I won't forget this, Cathy.
He watches the woman come out of the shop and get into her car, and he follows her secretly. Cathy, the woman, has no clue what is happening as she leads the stranger to a gym house for her yoga lessons. While she heads in, the man waits, still in his car, for her to finish. Before Cathy leaves, she exchanges Instagram handles with a random woman she met at the gym house.
Do you know if he does house calls at all? If you know what I mean?
Casey Yoga online, so you can find him there.
As Cathy makes her way back toward her car, Lewis, the man, springs into action. From the passenger seat of his own vehicle, he retrieves a small stash of sinister tools, a handgun, a plastic bag, a roll of duct tape, and several sturdy zip ties. Without hesitation, he approaches her swiftly and decisively. Cathy immediately resists, thrashing her arms and shouting for help, but her cries are quickly stifled. He forces her arms behind her back, binds her wrists with the zip ties, secures her legs to stop her from kicking, and presses the tape firmly across her mouth. In one smooth yet terrifying sequence, he lifts her into the trunk of his car, slams it shut, and speeds off without anyone noticing. At one intersection on the road, Lewis stops at a red light, only to glance to his left and see a pair of police officers chatting casually in their cruiser. For a split second, his palms grow damp with sweat and his throat tightens, yet he keeps calm and drives forward once the light turns green, without leaving them suspicious. When he finally reaches his suburban home, his garage door refuses to open all the way. Jamming halfway up its track, Lewis jumps out, forces it upward with both hands, and props it in place with an old broomstick. He eases the car inside, shuts the engine off, and moves quickly to the trunk. The moment he lifts it, Cathy lets out a muffled, desperate wail through the tape. He yanks her out roughly, dragging her across the floor, while blood smears onto the tiles from cuts on her feet, as he hauls her into a hidden, white-walled room, concealed within the apartment. Cathy collapses onto the freezing floor, her body trembling. Pain radiates from her limbs. But what torments her more is the confusion of who the man could be and why he had abducted her. She writhes, unable to make sense of what offense she could have possibly committed. After a short while, Lewis comes back and tells her the walls are made of 4-foot-thick concrete and padded with sound-absorbing products, so there's no point in screaming for help. He tells her he's going to take the tape off her mouth, and he only needs her to tell him her name. She nods, but the moment he removes the tape, she starts screaming as loud as she can. Lewis just shakes his head slowly, disappointed as he leaves the room.
I know this because I put them there myself. I want you to listen very carefully. Not if you understand. I'm going to take the tape off your face and I want you to tell me your name.
While she desperately screams as loud as she can, Lewis heads over to a monitor in the living room, which happens to be recording all the audio in the entire house, and he turns down the volume. He fetches a bucket of water and a sponge and starts to scrub off traces of Cathy's blood from the tiles. Meanwhile, Cathy has realized how pointless screaming is, but she's still not ready to give up. With her hands still tied behind her and her clamped legs, she throws herself against the door, hoping the momentum would make it budge, at least a little. Lewis, however, continues with his cleaning as if nothing happened. Cathy notices the vent at the top of the room reflecting sunlight, so she crawls there and tries to direct all her screaming towards it, hoping someone from outside hears her. Little does she know, the entire building is in the middle of nowhere, so even if the room wasn't soundproof, she'd still have the same fate, because there's simply no one in the area. Lewis puts on his TV and listens to a reporter expose the truth about some victims' deaths, which were ruled as natural causes. He grabs his gun, loads it, and goes to pay Cathy another friendly visit. He opens the door to an already tired Catch, who just looks at him with hollow eyes. While he approaches her slowly, she begs him not to touch her, and promises to give him all her savings of $50,000 if he just lets her go. He smiles and tells her he doesn't want her money, but asks for her name instead. She replies that her name is Cathy Noland, pissing him off as he walks out and shuts the door on her.
A news story recently documented a bull waiting for the slaughterhouse.
I have savings. I have 50,000.
I don't want your money.
He heads to the desk on which he placed her bag and starts to go through her personal belongings, almost like he's specifically searching for something. Not finding what he seems to be searching for, he heads back to the living room and keeps watching the news about the victims' deaths. After a while, he decides to make dinner as he goes through the fridge and gathers the ingredients he finds. Meanwhile, Cathy is testing her acrobatic skills and trying to somehow bring her hands to the front. Ignoring the fact that she's doing a really terrible job at it, considering that she takes yoga classes frequently, she somewhat manages to pull through. Lewis, who had already finished preparing dinner, and carefully set everything on the dining table as though he were welcoming a guest rather than keeping a hostage. He makes his way toward the White Room with the intention of inviting Cathy out politely, but what he doesn't expect is the sudden ambush that awaits him by the door. Cathy, who had been lying in wait with every ounce of strength left in her, springs forward and lands a powerful, bone-cracking punch directly to his nose, catching him completely off guard and causing him to stumble back in shock and pain. She wastes no time, pushing him hard against the wall and using the opportunity to drag her battered body toward the hallway, crawling desperately even as her limbs ache terribly. Lewis, regaining his balance, attempts to seize her before she can get too far, but she kicks his head and keeps crawling. Refusing to surrender, she reaches the doorway, where she spots a decorative vase, heavy enough to serve as a weapon, and with all her strength, she smashes it across his head, the impact forcing him down to the ground, and giving her just enough time to crawl further away. Her eyes dart frantically until she spots a landline telephone resting on a side table. She grabs it and dials frantically for the police, praying that someone on the other end will hear her cries for help. Unfortunately for her, her efforts are met with static-filled silence as the line struggles with poor reception, making her pleas useless. Before she can try again, a deafening gunshot explodes just behind her, causing her to stumble. Lewis approaches and tries to grab her, but before he can wrap his hands around her, she grabs a porcelain figurine shaped like a Dragon Ball from his desk and smashes it into his head with brute force, sending him collapsing once again into unconsciousness. Shaking and breathing heavily, Cathy searches for her bag, finds it, and scrambles for her phone, hoping desperately that it will connect her to the outside world where the landline had failed. But again, the cell reception is just as weak. With no time to despair, she hides the phone in her pocket for later and drags herself across the floor into the kitchen, where she spots a knife resting on the counter. She uses it to free her legs from their restraint. Without hesitation, she bolts toward the main door, twisting the handle furiously, but it refuses to budge, locked or jammed in a way she cannot undo. She screams at the top of her lungs for help, while Lewis slowly regains consciousness. Instead of lunging at her immediately, he walks toward the dining table, sits down as though nothing had happened, and invites her once more to join him for dinner. This time, his tone is unnervingly steady as he asks for her name, but Cathy responds with the same defiance as before, refusing to give him what he wants. His composure snaps as he begins to attack her furiously.
Stay the fuck back.
You know the food tastes better hot.
That's a lot for your line of work. How do you know what I do?
What Lewis doesn't expect, however, is Cathy's resilience. She fights back with remarkable instinct, using everything within reach to fend him off and defend herself. She nearly strangles him to death, but with brutal force, he manages to subdue her, knocking her out cold. As he drags her limp body back toward the sterile white room, still breathing heavily from the struggle, he glances out the window and is shocked to see Alondra, his daughter's nanny, approaching. Quickly, he dumps Cathy in the room, smashing her head against a tile in the process, rushing back out to meet Alondra. He asks why she came. She replies that she had called earlier to ask if he would be needing her service that day, but there was no response, so she came to check herself. He tries to assure her that everything is fine, but she notices the mess in the living room and also his bleeding arm. She gets concerned and tries to pry, but he just tells her to leave him be, and that it's nothing serious.
You're bleeding, Senor Luis. Why all this mess?
I'm sorry, Alondra. I just forgot to call you back.
Everything okay, Senor Luis?
After she leaves, he cleans the house thoroughly and replaces all the broken vases. Later that day, Cathy wakes up with a massive headache and new zip ties on her feet. While trying to get up, she notices a crack on the tile, which was caused by the impact of her head against it, and tries to pull it out, but it's just too strong. After a while, Lewis comes back to check up on her and starts bombarding her with questions about her name, date of birth, and basically everything about her life. He tells her he knows who she is, but Cathy tries to play innocent, denying every accusation. Lewis doesn't ease up.
I didn't ask you that. I asked you what they did. Born where?
Orange County, California.
He brings in a chair and sits across from her, treating the entire exchange like an interrogation. He wants her confession, but she just gives him silence and glares that teeter between fear and defiance. He gives her a chance to answer the questions, and when she answers them, he asks her the same set of questions again.
Parents' profession.
What is this?
Just answer the questions. Try again.
California!
Threatening to shoot her with his gun this time. Surprisingly, all her answers are different until he asks her name. She replies that her name is Cathy, and this causes Lewis to start tweaking like a coke addict. She eventually confesses that her name is Natalie, and Cathy is the name of her twin sister, who had committed suicide a couple of years back.
My name is Natalie Ann Stevens. Why are you doing this?
But there was no English, was there? Was the name of your dead sister. Come on!
He gently gets up and leaves the room, telling her he's pretty sure she knows why she's there now. Later, when Lewis steps away, Cathy starts testing her surroundings again. She tries to dig into the broken tile, but without tools, her attempts are futile. She brings out her phone, which she managed to keep hidden, and dials the police with it. The call goes through this time, but Lewis storms in and smashes the phone in front of her. He accuses her of being directly responsible for his wife's death, revealing that his wife had been under her medical care, which was ruled a tragic accident. He tells her he knows it was actually murder, and asks her why, but Cathy shakes her head, refusing to acknowledge it. Lewis retreats into the living room after dragging Cathy back into the white chamber.
Oh man, I know my wife didn't drink that much, and her blood. Then you will die.
All the nurses were acquitted. We were innocent.
So why did you leave?
I know. You killed my wife, and I want to know why.
His body still shaking from the struggle. He lowers himself into the armchair, where earlier he had sat with eerie composure, and resumes playing the old videotapes of his late wife. The screen flickers with her image, a younger version of herself smiling, laughing, moving about the house. For a brief moment, the footage softens him, but then something inside snaps. The warmth he once felt watching those tapes turns to fury, as he remembers Cathy's defiant screams and her constant refusal to cooperate. Rage builds in his chest until it consumes him, and he storms back into the White Room, determined to end her life for good this time. The look in his eyes makes Cathy realize that if she stays silent...
Your wife was a sinner. Your wife was a whore.
Don't you say another word.
She will not leave the room alive. She swears that she will finally tell the full truth. Lewis hesitates, torn between his anger and curiosity, and after a long moment, he gives her the chance to speak. Cathy begins to tell him about her childhood, about how her family had been broken by the uncontrollable desires of her father. His predatory actions drove her sister into despair so deep that she took her own life.
She was dressed to the nines, drunk in a hotel bar.
What has this got to do with my wife?
Every Sunday we would just sit there.
From that moment, she vowed to dedicate her existence to honoring her sister's memory. That promise became the reason she pursued medicine and changed her identity. She tells him about how her patients used to confide in her, sharing their darkest secrets and most shameful sins. She tells Lewis that his wife was no different. His wife, she reveals, had confessed to an affair, one that had gone on for years behind his back. The words land like a hammer, and Lewis immediately recoils, calling her a liar, demanding she take it back.
He abandoned us, just left us with all his shame.
Don't you say another word.
Cathy instead provides him more details, making him second-guess what he thought he knew about his marriage. She tells him that's the reason she killed his wife and the other patients as he staggers out. Staggering out of the room in disbelief.
He came to visit her in secret in the hospital. See, the Bible says that we should hold marriage.
Lewis mutters angrily, telling himself it isn't true. Yet when he returns to the tapes, he notices things he hadn't before, which confirm Cathy's words. The devastation hits hard, confirming the possibility that Cathy might be telling the truth. Unable to think clearly, he grabs his car keys and drives off, needing space to breathe. Meanwhile, inside the house, Cathy works tirelessly. With her shattered phone, she scrapes at the tiled floor, doing her best to get it loose with whatever little time she has left. Lewis, far from the house, pulls up beside a serene lake. He sits on the hood of his car, trying to steady his thoughts, but his solitude doesn't last as two police officers approach, their car pulling up quietly behind his own. They ask for his license and registration. He shows it to them, and they verify his identity. They then go through his car, and after declaring him clean, apologize, explaining that they had received a call earlier about a suspicious vehicle, and his car matched the description. After the cops leave,
just investigating the call. A car matching yours was described.
He drives back home, with the burden still heavy in his chest. When he enters, Cathy is waiting, and he confronts her about what she did, telling her she had no right to take his wife away from him. He asks her to turn herself in, but she stabs him with the broken tile she had managed to rip out from the ground.
You had no right to take my wife from me before I had a chance to talk to her. What do I say to my daughter when she asks what happened to her mom?
She runs out of the room and looks for an actual weapon she can use against him. She grabs a knife and heads back to the room to end him, but he outsmarts her and manages to slip away while he searches for his gun while clutching his wound. They clash again, fighting through the house in a storm of shattered furniture and overturned chairs. She manages to grab his gun in the chaos, holding it in her trembling hands at the very moment the front door opens. Alondra, the nanny, steps inside with Lewis's young daughter. Horror spreads across her face as she takes in the scene. With the precision of a trained military expert, she shoots Alondra at a vital spot, and she bleeds to death before Lewis's daughter, traumatizing her. Cathy then grabs the little girl and threatens to kill her while Lewis begs her to let her go. Cathy is hell-bent on keeping her real identity secret, so she tries to make a trade with the little girl's life. Lewis tells Cathy that she's already doomed, that the house itself is recording everything, and that her identity is no longer to be a secret when the cops arrive. The revelation distracts her long enough for him to lunge. He wrests the child from her grip, shoves her aside, and begins choking her. He also shoots her.
Don't hurt my child.
Everything was so simple.
You can go back to your life just as it was. I won't say anything to anyone.
I don't believe you.
And rushes in search of his daughter, who has hidden herself in fear. He carries her to the car, and just as he is about to drive off, Cathy appears once again. She tries to kill him with the gun, but luckily for him, it's out of bullets. The crazy girl continues to attack him with whatever weapon she finds, and at this point, he can barely defend himself while his daughter watches helplessly from the car. Then fate intervenes. The faulty garage door, the same one Lewis had cursed earlier, comes crashing down with brutal force. Cathy is struck hard, slammed to the ground, her body crushed under its weight. This time, there is no getting up. Lewis, trembling, pulls his daughter close, realizing the nightmare is finally over. The end. Thank you for sticking to the end of my video. Please do me the biggest favor by leaving a like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video.